Hey there, I am. There we
Going on,
are.
Marcus?
I'm good, pal. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Yeah, thank you for taking some time this morning, jumping on Zoom with us.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. This is exciting. I've been seeing these podcasts on your Twitter feed for, I don't know, probably 10, 12 years, and
Ten,
now I'm
ten
on one.
years, man. Yeah. Well, I should probably know this, but how long have you been sports anchor at City News Vancouver? I should know
I've
this.
yeah, I've been in that building for 10 years now. As of March of 14, I was overnights for 4 years, and then I've been doing evening sports since 2018. But I was also doing weekend sports when I started, so I've been doing it for 10 years, you can say.
Okay. And did you grow up in Vancouver? Like, are you broadcasting from your hometown?
Yeah. I grew up in Poco.
Sick, dude.
My life has taken me back to Poco, which is very nice.
Yeah.
Living here with my fiance and her daughter and our dog, and so that's kind of cool. But yeah, I worked in Chetwynd, I worked in Brooks, Alberta, I worked in Chilliwack. I did play-by-play for the Chilliwack Chiefs for 3 years,
Oh
and
shit.
yeah.
Okay.
And that was the only time I've ever been fired in the industry, believe it or not. 19 years.
Well, they say
And
that
Chill.
you don't you're not truly in the industry till you get fired, right? Which is a
Yeah. But
bunch of bullshit anyway,
I
right?
know, I know, I know. But
Yeah.
the amazing thing was I was only unemployed for about 2 weeks. I got the job at 11:30 and away I went. I've been there for 10 years now. So
Is that
I must be
right?
doing
Eh?
something right.
Yeah, and clearly, then you've been a sports fan your whole life,
Yes.
even
Yeah,
as like a
that's
little kid.
yeah. That's what I'm into. I was reading the Vancouver Sun when I was 7 before school. This is just it's what I know, man.
It's just your path, yeah. And so,
Yeah.
like, so how old were you when you realized, like, I probably will go down like the sports broadcasting path? Like, was there
Uh
a
yeah,
certain thing in your life, or
I was probably 13, 14, and people started asking me, "So, Marcus, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I want to be Al Michaels. I want to be on Monday Night Football." That's kind of where I started.
okay?
And you get older, and it kind of gets beaten out of you a little bit. And I realized, you know what? Maybe my dream was just to do this at 11:30 for a long time until the wheels fall off. Now, I'm also grappling with what's next, what's around the corner, because I'm 37 now. I've got responsibilities. I'm not the same 24-year-old kid anymore, so I've been thinking about that too, and I'm at that point that we all get to. But I
So what
still
are you
enjoy what I'm
thinking
doing.
then? Like, you're not going to be changing careers or anything. Like,
No,
what are you thinking
not
long term?
no, not yet. I mean, I honestly, Todd, I don't know. I mean, does it mean I become like an HVAC technician? Does it mean I become an electrician? Probably, probably blue collar guy, get my ticket, do a trade, and make some money before I leave here, I guess. But
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at. But it is wild though that I've done this for pretty much half my life.
It's
Got in
crazy,
it,
right? And like a
got
really good gig, and like the shitty thing, of course, about radio, and we all know this, is that you just see your friends lose their gigs, and radio's not any different than anything else, though, right? I think
no,
that the difference, Marcus, is that it's such a high profile job that there's more of a spotlight instead of like you say, HVAC. Well, people
yeah.
lose their jobs in that as well, right? But
Hmm.
it's just not so like front and center, I guess.
Yeah, front and center, and just very, I guess, I don't know, just very blunt when it happens. And
Yeah.
because you always know in the back of your mind, it's like, well, my time will come eventually. I know that, but at the same time, you can't
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
way. You just have to keep going in.
It's
So,
funny.
which
Like,
is,
I never thought that. Like when I was at CFOX doing the afternoon show for like 12 years, right?
mhm.
I never ever thought that I'd get fired. I was like, oh, probably get too old to be in that format, and I'll just go down the hall to Rock 101, and I'll probably end up there until I'm gray balls and too
Yeah.
old to work anyway. And but it happens to the best of them, right? So
Yeah.
it's
And
something else.
but
So
and you're teaching at BCIT now?
I am, yeah. They're 8 years, 6 years full time.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so getting into my ninth year coming up.
Okay.
Freaking godsend, man. Like,
Yeah.
as much as I was making a living off podcasting those first couple of years, it was fucking grind, man. Like,
Oh, of course. Yeah.
straight up, like if I lost a sponsor, I'd be stressing for like weeks until I got the new sponsor on, or like had to
Yeah.
get like another couple different live shows going, or you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it was just, and then as soon as BCIT came in, I was like, okay, well, I don't really need to get a sponsor. Although, of course, it's nice to have sponsors, like
Yes.
get extra money
Yeah.
and stuff. But like, yeah,
It's nice to make money off of these things because along with 11:30 I do a little basketball show on Sportsnet
that's
650,
right.
and Andrew Walker, one of my old coworkers, told me something recently, and I still have never forgot it. He just said, you know, Marcus, sometimes we just do these shows for ourselves. And and for me, in a way, I'm just doing it for myself. It's an hour a week. It's once a week. I just like talking about basketball, and I just do it. So
Yeah,
it's
so Basketball Central Sports 650. Does that
yeah.
mean that like is basketball your number one sport?
Yeah, it was. I played in high school. I went to Terry Fox in Poco, which is the basketball factory, won a provincial title in grade 10.
Okay. Wow.
Grew up, I was old enough to, have my dad take me to Grizzlies games, and so that became my number one. I guess basketball and football are the two that I really look forward to.
Yeah.
And
On your
hockey's.
profile on Twitter, like a big Philadelphia Eagles,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
like you're
Big,
just
big, big Eagles fan.
huge.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Probably a little too overly invested, but yeah,
Yeah.
big fan.
Yeah. And so what did you make of this year's free agency? Like this is the first year ever that they've signed what $1 billion of contracts.
Yeah, it's pretty
Mental.
impressive actually. It's refreshing because it feels like, hey, the NHL's got money to throw around. And the salary cap's going up too, and that helps. But
Yeah.
teams always get a little crazy on July 1st. But I like what the Canucks did. It seemed to make sense, which
Yeah.
we couldn't always say the same with the previous regime. So that's
Yeah,
that's
well,
that's good.
at least we didn't trade the farm away this year, I suppose.
Yeah.
But of course, DeBrusque is the big one for us. But like, what did you think overall? Like, what was the overarching? What did you think were the surprising moves? I guess this year.
Well, I can't say that I was expecting Jake DeBrusk. I mean, I knew that they would have a backup plan if they weren't going to land Jake Gensel, and that was always going to be expensive and maybe like not pie in the sky, but we always kind of knew that Gensel, because there had been reports before that he had preferred to play somewhere in the United States. Maybe he's not that interested in playing in a Canadian market. And, he gets his rights traded to Tampa Bay, which is in Florida, and there's no state income tax. So as soon as that happened, you thought, well, okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
but that's a testament to the management group. They seem to have a plan B and a plan C and a plan D. They didn't panic. They gave Jake DeBrusk a contract that was very similar to what the Oilers gave Zach Hyman 3 years ago, and he's only 27 years old. They traded
Yeah.
for Miller when he was 27-ish, and he had a similar statistical profile. So it's possible that lightning strikes twice again. So I like the move for now. Obviously, in November and December, we can critique it a little harder.
Sure.
I do like that they brought in Danton Heinen as well. And it's kind of fun for me now after doing BCHL games a decade ago. There's the odd guy where it's like, I remember that guy. He's a former Surrey Eagle, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he's from Langley and local, and he can kill penalties. He's got some speed, so I like that move, and I like Kiefer Sherwood as well. So they've clearly figured out what their identity is. Like they just want a big, strong, fast team that'll wear you down. Like every defenseman outside of Quinn Hughes is like 6'5" now, and I guess Philip Peronic as well. So
Were you
uh,
surprised to see Zadorov not get signed? Like he was like, straight up was like, I'm willing to take a cut to stay here.
yeah, that was the one where you kind of thought that given the playoff run that he had, maybe he did sort of play himself out of Vancouver, which hey, that happens. Like I get that. And you're the Boston Bruins and you've got a lot of cap space and you got this big strong guy that gives you in Boston anyway, maybe some slight Zdeno Chara vibes. And he's got the personality and the look, and he's great with the media. He was great with the
He's
media in
at the meeting.
Boston yesterday.
Yeah,
So there are some times where you may have to overpay for something like that. And if the Canucks didn't want to go that route, then that's okay. That means they have a plan in place. This is like, hey, this is as far as we can go. And I don't know the numbers. I'm not on the inside, Todd. I don't purport to be. I'm just a presenter. But what I do know is that um, I don't know that the Canucks wanted to go for 6 years. Like that's a long term, and that contract might age poorly in
right.
Boston, but it's certainly going to look real good in the first couple of years, especially if the Bruins can get into the postseason and Zadorov can put on a show that he gave us for a few weeks there in
Yeah,
April and May.
yeah, yeah. I love his quote. He's like, "Don't call me the Big Z anymore."
Yeah,
Little
that
tip
was
of the
really
hat
good.
to,
Yeah, no,
it's pretty awesome.
big. One of my favorite Big Z thing is he seems like he's the pander king. He just knows how to play the market. He knows what's going on, He knows how people think. It's really wild. He's very intuitive that way because he
Yeah.
certainly did that here. He
Yeah.
had some shots at Edmonton and Calgary and stuff like that, and we all ate it up and clapped like seals. Of course we did.
Sure.
And now he's gonna do the same thing in Boston. I think he'll be a hit there.
I know, but of all places, really, fucking Boston.
Yeah.
Please, come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but I mean, the only guy left there is Brad Marchand. I feel like at some point,
Right.
like
Well,
I
and Brad
give,
Marchand, he's one of those guys like you hate him because he's such a rat, but he's
yeah,
also like he's one of those players that if he was on your team, you'd be like, "Fuck yeah, man, I love that guy,
of
love
course,
that guy."
yeah, and he scores goals and he's a leader, and apparently quietly he's a really good dude, like away from the
Really,
ice. Yeah, 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 like a Sedin level, just community unifier and stuff, all that on ice stuff. Maybe it's just a persona, I guess, but
must be.
apparently he's a good dude. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's great. Did you get into the fights and stuff? Like you watch UFC, Bellator, and all that?
You know what? No, I haven't, and I don't know. m- Yeah, I just no. Like I'm more of a like a big four, and not even baseball necessarily. And I realize I'm wearing a Dodger hat right now, but
Yeah.
I'm like basketball, football, hockey, and I was just saying to my fiance last night, it's like, well, it's July the 1st, and now it's kind of the quiet time. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
it's kind of the quiet time for the job. You got to get a little more creative. There's a lot of Blue Jays, there's a lot of Seattle Mariners, a lot of Vancouver Canadians, right?
Well, you
It's
must
not
go to a
gonna,
lot of Canadians games. Like at least that's affordable. It's really, and almost at that level, it's almost more exciting than the actual MLB because they want
yeah,
to like they're almost that caliber, all of them. They
yeah,
want to get to that level. They want to make the big money. It's almost like they play harder.
yeah. I see that for sure. And I mean, part of the appeal, obviously, is just going to the Nat and that
Yeah.
ownership group. And actually, I in 2005, I was with the Canadians as a pimply faced, still on Accutane 18-year-old intern in the media department,
Oh,
and
cool.
I worked up in that press box, and I got to meet like Lyndon Little, who wrote for the Vancouver Sun for years. That's how I met Jim Benny,
Okay.
who was at News 1130 for forever. He would come to those games, and I was the guy that would print out all the stat packs in the morning and say, hey Jim Benny, you want some popcorn? Yeah, okay. And then I go down and get popcorn, and then testament to Jim Benny, who I just saw this weekend. I started at News 1139 years later, and he sees me, and right away he goes, "Oh, hey, Marcus!" Like I'd worked there for a million years. So those
Nice.
connections, right? I made
That's
those
cool.
connections in that building, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got some
And,
good
and
memories
the
there.
and the sports box of that at the Nat, it's like one of the best in the league. Apparently, is what I'm told.
It is, yeah. No, I haven't been up there again for about 20 years, but I do have fond memories of it. Got warm in the summer, I'll say that. It got warm in August. Like it was 25 degrees outside and it was 33 in there, but good memories. I spent a lot of time up there. A
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
time.
Which sport do you like to play the most? Like, what's your favorite to play
Uh,
versus watching? I guess.
Uh, most recent, just basketball, really. Even in Poco, they got some really good courts. And good, and this is a very basketball nerd thing, but they've got a really good sense of the courts there, the baskets are there, but all the rims actually have nets on them, which I know doesn't sound like a big thing, but it is a big deal.
Oh,
I go
it's
to a
nice to hear
court.
the swoosh.
I want to hear that, right? So Poco is really good for that. They got a lot of nice courts, and it obviously doesn't cost anything. I just need a pair of shoes and a ball, and I can just take an hour for myself and go. That's
Yeah,
all I need.
yeah.
Because I work evenings, Monday to Friday, I would love to play recreationally in a league. The problem with that, though, Todd, is that I don't do a ton of cardio, so I don't know how long I would last.
Right.
So
Just give me quick 10-second shifts. I'll be
yeah, yeah.
okay.
If there's a rec basketball league where there's no shots inside the 3-point lines, and us old guys can just jog in between the 3-point lines and get a few threes up for about half an hour, that's great. I would join that league. Actually, in Poco at Gates Park, they have a league for the older fellas, and it's literally the no running soccer league. And I see them, they play on Thursdays, they get set up, and it's basically like soccer at walking speed. And I thought, well, if we could have something like that for basketball, I would join that in 10 seconds.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you think that Vancouver could sustain a team again? Like, there's been talk of that over the years, since losing the Grizzlies, and like it was really exciting to go to those games. Like, it's another level if you're a big hockey fan or Whitecaps fan or whatever. Like, those games are fun, right?
Oh yeah,
We all know
yeah.
they're great, but basketball, there's something of like if people walking on stilts, there's firewalkers and like
Hmm.
all this crazy shit in between, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that Vancouver could sustain another team?
I think they could. I think the interest is there, and I've been to a few Vancouver Bandits games out at the Langley Event Center. So I know there's an appetite for it. I know there's an audience for it. It is out there in Vancouver and into the Lower Mainland and into the Valley. I know what's there. The issue is there some tech billionaire white knight out there who can foot the probably $5 billion expansion tag? Francesco Aquilini said on Sportsnet 650, I believe back in 2017, because he was asked about that. And I'm paraphrasing, but he said, well, hey, we'd love to do that. It's just a very expensive proposition. It's a lot different than the National Hockey League, for instance. So I think for that to happen, we may need a white knight to come in, like a tech bro guy with like $6 billion to just drop and say, okay, here we go. Now, if I had that $6 billion, Todd, yeah, I would do it. I would bring the team in because I do think that there's an audience for it still. And I do think that Vancouver's obviously grown and they've learned from the last time. And with the TV money coming in now, the league's going to make about 8 billion a year from Disney and Amazon and all that stuff. So I think it could happen again, but it really just comes down to who's going to foot the bill because it is very expensive to own an NBA team.
Hmm, interesting. I think that would be the same across the board, right? Like, why would it be any more expensive to have basketball over football or baseball or hockey?
Yeah, yeah, that is interesting, and I'm not a businessman, but if franchise valuations keep going up in that league particularly, um, and I mean, and we'll get to a point too where you don't want to be too oversaturated. There's 30 plus teams in the NBA now. We know that Vegas is coming in eventually. We know that Seattle's going to come in eventually. That's been probably the worst kept secret in the NBA for the last half decade.
Mhm.
I just wonder, and this is just me speculating. I just wonder if there's a point where the league says, "Okay, we've got 34 teams. Do we want 35? Do we want 36? Like how big is this going to get before it gets too big?" But yeah, no, there just seems to be a lot more money
Mm,
in the NBA. That's the simplest, dumbest way I can put it. And
yeah,
there's a lot
yeah,
more there than there is in the NHL. And again, until somebody rides in and can foot that bill, then we may have to keep waiting.
yeah, yeah. Let me hit you with a question that, I mean, it might be impossible to answer, but like, who are the goats of all sports combined, men and women? Like, is it Jordan? Is it Gretzky?
Oh
Is it
my.
Serena Williams? Is it Cassie Campbell? Like, who are the goats of sport?
Okay. Well, tell you what, let's narrow it down a little bit. Let's try to make it like a Mount Rushmore of the four
Yeah.
greatest athletes. And this is actually a tricky exercise because you're considering eras, you're considering the competition those players played against, you're considering the social media aspect of it. Is Michael Jordan on that Mount Rushmore? Yes, but Michael also did not have to deal with social media. He came along at a time where if he went to a casino after a game in New York, it was written about in the paper and the media brought it up to him. But were there photos of it? No.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? So he kind of dealt with that different thing. So that's kind of what you have to consider. I think, and for me, and you have to consider as well. I'm also 37 years old. I'm an aging millennial, so I'm aware of what's going on right now, but I also harken back to the past a little bit. And I'm also being a sports person. I'm a bit of an historian too, so we can put Muhammad Ali on there. We can put Michael Jordan on there. We can put Wayne Gretzky on there. Those are your three. And then after that, oh, I mean, I guess Tom Brady, I suppose. Like Tom Brady would kind of bridge the gap between Muhammad Ali and I guess the current generation.
Sure.
Because my generation, if yeah, okay, well, who's the greatest of all time? Well, when I was growing up, it was Joe Montana and Michael Jordan and Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux, and that was it. Now you ask the new generation, well, who's the GOAT? Well, it's Tom Brady,
LeBron.
or it's LeBron,
LeBron's
or
better than MJ. It's like, no,
Ex-
he's
it's-
not. No,
yeah,
he's
well, the LeBron MJ thing, the reason I lean Michael is because A, I remember seeing him play. B, because the impact and the aura of Michael. Like I still wear Michael's shoes. I wear shirts with his logo on them. I don't see people wearing LeBron stuff. And that might be a silly thing, and there may be a time 10, 15 years down the line when all of LeBron's shoes get retroed and people are wearing, LeBron Nike gear. I get it. I understand that. But Michael was in that department anyway, certainly a trailblazer. And I still wear all his stuff and lots of people still wear his stuff. So I think the mythology of Michael kind of edges out LeBron. And, once LeBron retires and inevitably puts out a documentary about his career, a half decade from now, maybe we'll look at it a little bit differently. But I think because we've had plenty of time, at least for folks in my generation anyway, we've had time to consider what Michael was, what he meant, how successful he was. I think he is the greatest of all time, although I would not be opposed to say that LeBron James has maybe had the better career, which is different than saying he's the greatest of all time. He's had the better career, more longevity, playing into his 40s, plays with his son, championships, winning championships with different teams, this and that. Because Michael didn't do that, obviously. But when
mm-hmm.
you just look at impact and when you factor in your own memories, which is what we do, and that's how we kind of cloud things a little bit, I would go Michael one, LeBron two, and then you get into Kareem, Bill Russell, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird territory. But for me, Michael is my number one. But that's as a 37-year-old aging washed millennial, Todd. So there's probably some younger guy who totally disagrees with me, and that's completely fine. That's not going to bother me.
Yeah, yeah. How about the women's side?
Oh boy. Well, I guess Serena Williams comes to
Hard not
mind
to include
first.
her. Like, she's got
Yeah,
to be up there.
yeah. Serena comes first with all the success, the Grand Slams that she's had.
Yeah. And
Um,
interesting, to pause you for a quick sec.
yeah,
She's done interviews where she's like, if I were to play against the guys, I'd lose like 6-0, 6-0, like in 15 minutes.
really? She said that. Oh, I didn't know
She's
that.
been
Okay.
quoted as like, yeah, well, in fact, I watched a clip the other day about that. It's like, wow, really, you're the best women's, and you think you would lose to just a random men's tennis player because they're
Yeah.
that much better? And she's like, they just are. It's just another
Hmm.
serves are faster, they're just quicker on their feet. Like, see, it's incredible, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't realize she said that. Yeah. I mean, maybe she's just being humble, but I mean,
Maybe.
if I was saying, okay, yeah, Serena against the number, 115th men's player right now, yeah, you know what? I'm going to lean Serena. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, yeah, for the women's side, I would go Serena. I would consider Cheryl Miller, Reggie's brother, one of the best
Mm,
basketball players to ever do it. And women's hockey, and you because you mentioned Cassie
Jackie
Campbell, I would
Campbell.
I would
Yeah.
I would probably go Haley Wickenheiser over Cassie, although
Oh,
you could make a debate
yeah,
for
for sure.
yeah, for sure. And then I guess if I wanted to go like a basketball player today, and it's sort of topical because the WNBA is really kind of taken off and
Yeah, are you
exploded in
surprised at that,
interest.
or do you think that there's going to be longevity with
Oh,
that?
I think so. Just the way that the sport is, or that the league is covered now, the way that the players have, I guess, become a little more like there just seems to be more star power now.
Yeah.
There's reasons to tune in and like Caitlin Clark and even Diana Taurasi who's basically the LeBron James of the WNBA. I would put her on the Mount Rushmore as well. She's been doing that for a long time, for about 20 years. So
Yeah. And
um
how did Caitlin Clark not get on the team? How did
uh
Like, what is going on? Seriously? Like, I don't
yeah.
follow women's basketball that much, but I follow it enough to know that she's a fucking powerhouse.
Yeah. No, she's really good, and she'll be really good for a long time. Like in a sense, I understand why, hey, she may not have made it this time, but you can bet she's going to be there 4 years from now, and she'll be there 8 years from now, and she'll be there 12 years from now.
Mhm.
Um, and there was some chatter that if we put Caitlin Clark on this team and she doesn't play a ton because there are 12 players on the roster, you could argue that are better than her, at least according to the people who follow and pay attention to the league, then we're going to hear from her fans. Like that apparently was an issue for the national team, which I don't really believe that. The games are in Paris.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, do they think that 1,500 real people are going to protest their practices or something? Like, I didn't really believe that. That didn't seem right to me. But I also get that if that program feels there's 12 players better than Caitlin Clark, then fine, because Caitlin's really good and she's very humble. She's handled all this extremely well.
Oh, she
And I,
certainly did. Yeah.
yeah, and I have no doubt that in 4 years she'll be on the team and she'll be a star
Yeah.
and life will go on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 All right, Marcus, let's get outside of sports, outside of broadcasting, what you're known for. What are you binge watching lately, buddy?
Oh, well, The Bear recently
Uh,
came out June 27th. So we're about 4 episodes into the third season. Yeah, third season now. So we're about 4 seasons into that.
so
Uh
good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Really good. Really
Yeah.
good.
That's what I
So
did
yeah.
before getting into broadcasting. I was a cook.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I love it. I
Okay.
do probably 70% of the cooking, 75% of the cooking here at my house.
Okay.
I'm the only person that goes grocery shopping.
Oh, good for you. There you
Yeah,
go.
man, I love it. It's something about it, put a nice album on, maybe crack a red,
Yeah.
crack a beer or whatever, and just it's
Yeah. Yeah.
relaxing. I don't know, not many things relax me like cooking does.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it, man.
Yeah. Well, I'll ask you this because if you worked, have you worked in restaurants before?
Yeah.
And is it like I don't know that it's as high intensity as say
Well, I
Carmi's
haven't worked
Kitchen and
in
the Bear, but
Yeah, I mean, I haven't worked in like that style of restaurant
okay,
where they're so manic about everything, but
right,
yeah, I mean, it's kind of like that though. Like the places that I worked at a place called Mykonos up in Summerland, and
okay,
it gets a little hectic. It gets a little fury, a little fiery, but nothing like the Bear, man. Like that, I don't know that I could work in a place like that. I don't
yeah,
care
yeah,
what
it
you pay
seems,
me. Don't fucking yell at me like that. I can't treat me like that.
yeah, yeah,
Well, that's a great show.
yeah, we're radio guys, Todd. Nobody yells at us. Like,
Yeah,
no, we're just we're
exactly
just
right.
we're just gonna have a nice conversation. You don't have to yell.
No thick skin around here. Uh, what's your favorite superhero movie?
Oh, well, that's actually a loaded question for me because I'm one of those guys where it's like superhero movies, Marvel movies, like
Really?
I'm not really into it. Although I will say, because my fiance is, I will happily go to those movies with her. I'll happily go see the Marvel films. I get it.
Oh,
Uh,
she's a big fan.
yeah, yeah, she's more into those things, and I'm happy to go along with her. Of course I am.
Yeah.
But am I into that stuff? You know what? Like superhero movies, like Lord of the Rings, and like if you hey Marcus, have you seen any of the Back to the Future movies? No, I haven't. I just
Really?
have like that's not really. I guess for me, and this is just in my own mind. I guess for me, it's not steeped in reality
Oh,
in
it's
any
the
way.
suspension of disbelief. You're like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, yeah, like that's just harder for me to
Hmm.
to handle. So,
How
do I
about
have a
movies like
favorite?
The Matrix?
I mean, I've seen The Matrix,
Okay.
but did it blow my mind? Yeah, yeah, it was
Yeah.
okay. You know what I mean? I guess for
Yeah.
me, it's like I've seen all the Rocky movies a million times. I love the Godfather series. I love actually my favorite movie is Wall Street, the '80s one with
Oh
Michael
yeah.
Douglas and Charlie Sheen. That's my favorite movie. Uh, like Scarface, Jeremy. Like I'm very eclectic when it comes to films, but if a new Marvel movie comes out,
Scrambling to go to the theater to see
I'm
it.
not scrambling to go. If somebody wants to, take me, yeah, I'm sure.
Okay.
I like the popcorn. I like the seats that recline. We'll go, but I'm not. I've never been over the top about that stuff. Never have.
Okay. So you're more like maybe like what's that one movie that Brad Pitt Moneyball?
Oh yeah, yeah. Moneyball's a good one for sure. I've seen that a
Yeah,
bunch
good
of
show.
times.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and yeah, I'm just more of a I guess more of a realist when it comes
Realism.
to
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough.
movies. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Hit us with a near death story, buddy. Like where
Oh,
you're
and you're
like, holy shit, I
oh,
could have died there.
oh man. Well, I got a good one for you. I was actually in the process of starting my career because I was 19 and I was moving up to Chetwynd to go work at Peace FM, which is a tiny little station up north. It's generated some other notable alumni. Vic Nazar, Sportsnet 650 worked there. Justin Morissette, Dan O'Connor, my friend, who did play-by-play for the Vancouver Giants for a few years. So I'm going up there and I'm driving a 1986 Ford Bronco. It was black and silver. It wasn't a white Bronco like OJ's, but it was a black and silver
Yeah.
Ford Bronco that
You
my
hadn't just killed someone, so
yes,
stories are
that's right.
different.
Colors are different. So I've got my whole life in this truck and I've never driven that far in my life, obviously. Things were going fine. Things were going well. I was approaching Williams Lake and I needed gas. And I saw a sign, just on the highway for, gas station up ahead. Okay. So I turn up this road, Horsefly Road. I'll never forget it. And it's just kind of this long, winding road. And I'm realizing, I don't know if I'm going to find a gas station up here. I'm 19 years old. I don't know nothing from nothing, right? Like I'm young, Todd. So I turn back around and I'm coming down this hill. I'm probably going a little fast, but this car pulls out from the opposite lane, going the opposite direction to pass the car in front of it. So now I'm staring down this car, right? So I swerve, swerve again. The car flips and the car lands right side up, and I had the seatbelt on, thank goodness, or I probably wouldn't be here talking to you. And my stuff was all over the road. I vividly remember, even to this day, Todd, I remember what it felt like to flip in the car. I remember the glass smashing around me. I remember what that sounded like, what that felt like. I even remember being so present in that moment. I realized going over, and this is just on the video, I remember going over and thinking, this is actually happening. My car is flipping right now.
It's
And
crazy
I,
how like in moments like that, time slows down. Like
yeah, yeah, like it really did slow down. And thank goodness I didn't go over a, side of a cliff or anything. I just kind of landed right side up. So like, the car's on its wheels again. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking around and I was just in disbelief. And all I had was like a cut on my elbow and that was it. So what happened was, is because I was near Williams Lake. We had some distant family cousins in Williams Lake at the time. So I called and my dad got on the phone with them. I ended up staying the night with them in Williams Lake after I got my elbow stitched up. And believe it or not, I got all of my stuff that was in the car, or most of it anyway. And I got on the Greyhound the next day and I made my gig in Chetwynd and I got there on time and on target. Nearly died on the way there to starting my career, Todd, but I got
that
there,
is
you
crazy. I
know.
thought you were going to be like, and dude, like I drove the car away the next day. No, you
No,
didn't.
the car was totaled, but yeah, no, that was how I knew that I was going to be okay and I was going to be in radio for a little while. Like
Wow,
I almost didn't start my career, but I did, and now I'm here 19 years later. It's pretty wild.
that's crazy. That's a great story. What was the music like in the Fitzgerald house as a kid growing up? Like, what are your parents playing and stuff?
Oh, you know what? I actually joke about this with my fiance a lot. The musical taste in the house wasn't that prevalent. I will say that my mom was like really into like Elton John, and I swear, Todd, for a long time there in the 90s, she would make dinner and she would put on the soundtrack from The Bodyguard. And
Oh,
that's a
the
movie that
Whitney Houston and all that.
Whitney Houston, yeah. And that's a movie that I actually saw for the first time about a year and a half ago. And of course, all the songs in that movie and those memories came back. I just remember my
Oh
mom
yeah,
making dinner and playing that CD in the 5 CD changer in the living room. So growing up, it was like a lot of soundtrack stuff. The Forrest Gump soundtrack was massive. A
isn't
lot of the songs on that stay with me to this day. Elton
it
John,
great
Billy
what
Joel.
what music does? Like how it brings
Oh
back
yeah,
like that. I love that shit, man.
yeah.
Love it.
Even to this day, like Elton John, Billy Joel, Michael Jackson, and then funny enough, as I got older, the music of working in small radio stations. Like there are a ton of songs now. Like if I was to hear "My Girl" by Chilliwack, to me that's a small market staple. That's a small market song that stays in my head. Or, God, geez, what's another one? "Soul City" by the Partland Brothers. That's a huge
Nice.
one. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that. Yeah, those little kind of corny, Canadian in a lot of ways songs, and that's the kind of stuff that stays with me. So growing up, yes, it was a lot of soundtrack stuff, and I sort of found my way. And then eventually, Todd, I played basketball in high school, so I found my way to hip hop. And
Hip
you've got a
hop. Yeah.
bunch of white kids who have never been to Atlanta before, and we're all listening to Jermaine Dupri before the game. But
Word.
then I get into my career, and it's like all of a sudden on my phone I've got, well, why do I have the Grapes of Wrath on here? Why do I have the Partland Brothers? You know why? Because I'm working in these small towns and I'm hearing these songs all the time.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's what kind of shaped me as well. It's kind
It's
of funny that way.
nostalgic music. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was your first concert that you went to?
Oh, my first one. I'll be honest with you. I've been to plenty of sporting events, not a lot of concerts. My first one, geez, what was my first concert? I want to say it was Snoop Dogg and Prince George.
At the multiplex.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Where the Cougars still play.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, and you know what? I was older than that. I was like 18 years old. Like concerts as a kid, no. Like Canuck games, Grizzly games,
Hmm.
sure, all the time, absolutely. That was kind of more my thing. But my first concert, believe it or not, wasn't until I was literally a full grown adult. But it was Snoop Dogg and Prince George, and that was fun too because A, I knew a lot of the songs. B, Snoop showed up late because why wouldn't he? And it was just a lot of fun. And since then, I've been to a few, but I also remember seeing April Wine in Chilliwack.
Oh,
Again,
nice.
small market staples, just random stuff. Yeah, 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 yeah. Couple of songs that I remember. Yeah, great. Okay, sure. I'll go see that at the Cultural Center. Absolutely.
It's
So,
great.
yeah.
Do you remember when they used to do the T-Bird Island or whatever it was called, just out like by Chilliwack and out that area?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Remember they used to do shows out there? I saw T-Bird. I saw April Wine there with like Extreme,
Oh, wow.
like Sass Jordan or something like that. Like,
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
just an
More.
eclectic bill. I think maybe even
Yeah.
EPO was on it, but yeah, man, classic Canadian rock. Can't go wrong.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that little unbeknownst to me at the time, that was formulating in my brain, and now I just have it. I have all these weird songs on my phone because of that. So I have radio to thank for that.
Yeah, nice, nice. All right, Marcus, a couple more questions and I'll let you go to respect your time here and thanks again for doing this.
Yeah, you bet.
I'm curious on who's the most famous person that you've met?
Most famous. I would have to go. It was 2019, 2019? No, 2016. It was a preseason NBA game. Uh, it was the Raptors, and they were playing the Golden State Warriors. And this is just after Golden State had won 73 games in the regular season, lost in the NBA Finals, blew the 3-1 lead, and signed Kevin Durant to much criticism in the offseason. So the Warriors were this Death Star monolith super team. And here they were in their very first game. First preseason game was going to be here in Vancouver, and they were going to play the Raptors. So I made sure that I got a credential for that.
Sweet.
I got to go into the room, and that was my first, full on credentialed NBA media experience. Even though it was just the first preseason game, and the teams really didn't know each other yet. They hadn't installed any systems or plays or anything like that. But to be able to walk into that room and see Kevin Durant and see Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, and then of course we're waiting around in the room, and the way the NBA, and I don't know if the rules are still the same, but you're allowed to go into the room to talk to the players and the coaches for a certain point before the game for about an hour or so. So
Mm.
I'm standing around in the Warriors dressing room, and I'm looking at my watch, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I know I'm allowed to be here for another 20 minutes, so I'm just going to hang around. And there's me and there's a couple other guys from ESPN, and they're just lingering, looking around, waiting. I said, well, I wonder why those guys are waiting. Sure enough, 5 minutes later, Stephen Curry himself bounds into the room, and this was weird for me because it was almost like the fourth wall breaking, where it's kind of like, hey, it's you're the guy, and I'm sure you've had that experience as well, hanging out with
Yeah,
yeah, with rock
yeah.
stars. It's like, oh
Like,
yeah, I've seen you do that thing you do, and now you're here. So Steph is looking at us, and we're looking at Steph, and Raymond Ritter, the Warriors, still with them. They're excellent media PR guy. He kind of looks at us and he smiles and he says, "So you guys want to talk to Steph?" And we're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." So Steph comes over, and now, granted, I'm the only local guy in here at this point, Todd. Like everybody from Sportsnet, CTV, they had already come in and they had already left. And
Mm-hmm.
again, getting back to knowing how long I have in there, I knew like, no, I'm staying right here.
Sure.
So I was the guy to go to Steph and say, "Hey, Steph, what do you think of Vancouver? What do you think of this? What do you think of that? Do you think the NBA can work here one
Wow.
day?" And he and I were 4 feet apart. And this guy, like, yeah, we talked about LeBron James earlier in the podcast, but Steph Curry at this time was like the dude,
Sure.
in the NBA.
But does
So
he
it
miss
was
shots? I don't think he does.
no, he doesn't. He doesn't. He just doesn't. So it was really cool and really special to have that moment with him, and just knowing that that happened because, hey, just hang around. You never know who you're going to
Totally
bump
right.
into. You never know who you're going to have a chance to interview or maybe ask some questions of on the record. And I put that out on Twitter, and it got a bunch of play as well. So that was a very exciting time. I would probably say that was the most exciting interaction that I've ever had in my 19 years. That's definitely the one that comes to mind first.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, that actually dovetails nicely into my last question. Would that be the career highlight then? Like, what's your career highlight so far?
Oh man, well, I mean, yeah, it's right up there, and I've done those preseason NBA games a few times, and it's very cool to see the players and ask them questions and sit like right under the basket during the games. I've never sat that close in an NBA game before, so that was really cool too.
Yeah.
Career highlights, geez, I've never really. It's all gone by so fast, Todd. I haven't really had the time to sort of think about what stands out. I mean, the Warriors coming here definitely stood out. Getting a chance to, frankly, just call hockey games in the BCHL in Chilliwack for 3 years, and riding the bus, and learning so much, and seeing the good side of hockey culture, quite frankly, because there's a lot of bad stuff about hockey culture that we hear about all the time, but
Mhm.
I've seen the good side of hockey culture. So
So how did you
uh
get that gig, by the way?
that's actually a story in itself. I was in Brooks, Alberta, and I was doing news and sports in the morning.
Brooks,
I was
Alberta. My
Yeah.
grandparents used to own the convenience store in Brooks, Alberta.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow. There you go. There you
that's
go.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was the news and sports morning show co-host.
Okay.
Very young age, 22, 23, 24. But they're the junior A team there, the Brooks Bandits. Very, very successful program now, multiple national championships and lots of BCHL titles. We had a guy, Dennis Siebel, older gentleman, did all the games, did all the play-by-play, did the broadcast and stuff. And I was like let's throw it back to the studio to Marcus to, do an update in a second. And I was that guy there for a few years. And then I started doing color with Dennis. And then one day Dennis gets sick and he can't call the games. And they're like, "Marcus, you're gonna have to do it."
You have to
I'd never
step
called
up,
it.
buddy. It's like,
Yeah, and
oh
I
my
I
God, here we
I
go.
I'd never called a hockey game before. And this is a playoff series as well. So and I was so nervous, but you know what I did? This is back in the day when Team 1040 was still around.
Yeah.
They would put the Canuck radio broadcasts, like John Shorthouse's call, and they would podcast those. So what I did is I listened to that and I just said, okay, if I just do it like Shorty here, I'm gonna
Wow.
be okay. And I did those 2 games, and if I ever meet John Shorthouse face to face, I'll tell him this. I said, I leaned on you in that moment when I was really nervous. And I said, if I just call the game like Shorty, it'll be okay. And sure enough, I did, and it went fine. I did a few games in Alberta. And then the job in Chilliwack opened up. And I thought, well, geez, now I have this tape. I can use it. I can send it to them.
Nice.
I'm from Port Coquitlam. I'd like to come home. The Chilliwack Chiefs, this was the second iteration of the franchise, because they had lost the WHL Bruins, and the Chiefs were coming back. So this is like a brand new thing. And yeah, I sent my stuff in, and I knew a couple people over there, and I was able to get that job, and I did that job for 3 years, and that was some of the most fun I ever had too. So I guess as a collective, that's some of my best memories in the industry have happened in Chilliwack. Had a lot
That's
of good time out there.
awesome, dude. Because if you hadn't had that chance, you wouldn't have had the tape and you wouldn't
Exactly.
have the gig. And like, that's great, man.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's what I would say to the young kids now. You never know. Just say yes to as many things as you can. And obviously, as you get older, you're a little more jaded. Yeah, you're a little more guarded, a little more calculated. But when you're young and you're starting out, just say yes, because you never know. You never know what it might lead to. That's the key.
Yeah, no, I felt the same way through my career too. Like it was like, yes, sir, 3 bags full, man. I'll do that.
Yeah.
I'll do that. I'll take that. I'll host that. I'll do this. Like, yep, the answer is
Hmm.
yes.
Hmm.
Marcus, thank you, brother. Thank you for jumping on with us today. You're easy to find on Twitter. It's Marcus Fitzy.
Yes, sir.
Are you active on Instagram? I'm more Twitter, Facebook personally.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I'm on there. In fact, I'm so active on Instagram, Todd, that I would have to actually look at my Instagram profile to tell you what my Instagram
Oh,
handle
that's great.
actually is. And I will do that for the sake of your listeners and for the
Sure.
sake of this podcast.
Yep.
Let's see here. Oh,
I think it's
yeah.
Marcus A. I think.
Yeah, just Marcus A. Fitzgerald. So
There
the
you go.
longest handle in the world, but
Yep.
once you find it, it's there.
Beauty. Well, thanks for doing this. We'll toss your tag around and stuff when we're throwing this around online, and we'll see you soon.
Great. Thanks so much, Todd. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Marcus. Good to talk to you, buddy. Nice work.